Hi, we're going to look at essential React.js tips and tricks for every developer. In this particular video, we're going to go over some of the main important tips that have helped me in my experience building React.js application. The first one that I would like to go over is to decompose your UI into reusable components. A fundamental principle of React is its component-based architecture. Break your user interface down into small reusable components. This approach encourages code reuse, simplifies debugging, and makes your application easier to maintain. Here is an example where I create a constant button with onClick and children, which gives me back the element button onClick children button. We call the app constant app, and inside that I can create a div element and add the button with on-click functionality inside there. Second, harness the power of JSX for streamlined code. JSX, a syntax extension for JavaScript, lets you write HTML-like code directly within JavaScript. It streamlines the creation of React elements, enhancing the readability and maintainability of your code. Fully embrace JSX by mastering its unique features such as self-closing tags and embedding JavaScript expressions. Here's an example. This is how you write your JSX code inside your application where I've created an app, and inside that I have added my JSX example. Grasp the significance of keys in list. In React, keys are crucial when rendering lists as they help identify which items have changed, been added or removed. This enables React to optimize rendering and update the UI efficiently. Always use a unique identifier as a key for each list item. Here is an example for a to-do list very constant where I have the to-dos as the parameter, and here is the code for it with the unordered list which has a to-dos a map which will create multiple list items inside it based on the to-dos object that was passed. Utilize functional components and hooks. React has transitioned from class-based components to functional components with hooks. Hooks like useState and useEffect enable you to incorporate state and lifecycle features into functional components, resulting in code that is more concise and readable. Here is an example where I am using useState and useReact inside the import statement. And next, I've created a counter which has a constant which keeps a tuple of count and set count you can assign to useState. Then I use useEffect, and then I try to make sure the document.title is equal to count, the number of count in there. And this will return back a div element that you have clicked how many times, that will specify how many times have the click counter has been or you clicked using the button below, which actually calls the set count function, incrementing the count by 1. Utilize prop types for component validation. Prop types ensure that your components receive the correct types of props, enabling built-in type checking. This helps catch bugs early, making your code more robust and enforcing the intended usage of your components. Here is an example where I am importing React from React first, prop types from prop types, and using this prop types, you probably see I've created a greeting here with name as a parameter which passes to my HTML element here h1, where name is passed with hello. Then here is my prop type where I am assigning a greetings prop type property to a particular name. Prop type.string is required, and at the end export the greeting. Efficiently manage state with useState and useReducer. Effective state management is vital in React. Begin with useState for simple state needs and transition to useReducer for more complex static logic. Knowing when and how to utilize these hooks will make your components more predictable and easier to manage. Here is an example. I'm calling useReducer. I'm importing useReducer. Next, I am creating an initial state with count of 0. Then I create the reducer function with state and action inside there. And depending on what the action type is, I switch between increment and decrement, incrementing and decrementing the state count. Next, I have the counter which has state and dispatch array inside there, where I'm calling the useReducer, passing the reducer and initial state. This returns a HTML element with div which has my paragraph on the top, which has the state.count and both the buttons for incrementing and decrementing. Boost performance with useMemo and useCallback. Optimizing performance is essential in large React applications. Use useMemo or Memoize expensive calculations and use callback to prevent unnecessary re-renders by caching function references. These hooks help you avoid performance bottlenecks in your application. Here is an example where I have used useState, useMemo, and useCallback imported. Next, I create a expensive component which has compute and value inside it, and this returns the div element with result, which is using the useMemo functionality to compute the value based on compute and value. I have the app where I am creating two constants which are assigned to useState and useState. Next, I am creating the constant compute, which is calling the useCallback methodology, which returns the value times 2. Then finally, we return the component by passing inside a div where I have the input element, I have the expensive component that I've created above, and the button, which when on clicked increments the count by 1. Enhance robustness with error boundaries. Error boundaries are React components that catch JavaScript errors in their child component tree, log the errors, and display a fallback UI. They improve the robustness of your app by preventing crashes in entire sections of your UI when an error occurs. So the way you do it is you create a class error boundary which extends the React.component, and inside that create a constructor which calls the super with passes the props. It also has the state element where error is initialized to false. Now next we get the derived state from error function, and inside this we return the has error to true. Next, we have the component did catch, which has the error and error info, and we just console error for us, log in the error to for error reporting services. And then finally, the render method, which if this state has error, it will return something went wrong. If not, it will just return the children. And here is our buggy component constant, where I am throwing an error as that some error happened. And finally, inside the app, we'll add the error boundary and the buggy component inside there, just in case if everything works, if there's an error. Utilize React context for global state management. Now, React context allows you to share values between components without prop drilling. Use context to manage global state such as themes or user data that needs to be accessible throughout your app. In this particular application, in the example, what you see is I have imported the create context, use state, and use context. I'm creating a theme context by calling the create context function. Then I installed my constant theme provider. I'm creating a constant where I am saying use state is light, returning the theme context provider value with theme and set theme, and the children that are passed are assigned here in this particular component. Next, I have the theme component where I have the constant of theme and set theme using use context theme context. Then I return the entire component by using the HTML div and the first paragraph where the current theme is depending on which one the user has clicked, light or dark. I have the button option here where they can toggle the theme. That's what is passed back. And then finally the app where I embed the theme provider and the theme component inside there and export the app. And finally, keep up with React's ecosystem and tools. The React ecosystem is vast and constantly evolving. Stay current with the latest tools, libraries, and best practices. Familiarize yourself with tools like React Developer Tools for debugging and popular libraries such as React Router for navigation and Redux for state management. I hope this video helps. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Thank you.